I'm already framing it as it's my belief. I'm not telling you, and I'm not imposing or projecting this on you. I'm not saying racism is still alive in the US. And if you don't see it, you're this and you're that. That's not going to help us get to a place of understanding. That's not going to help us get to a place where we can work together and actually change some of these antiquated systems.
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women! My next guest, the author of Permission to Offend, is a highly sought after international speaker and certified master neuroscience coach to 6- and 7-figure earning entrepreneurs. Named by Forbes as one of the 11 most inspiring female entrepreneurs to follow on Instagram, this former U.S. Marine has a reputation for inspiring confident action and helping her clients double, triple, and quadruple their income. Her clients often refer to her as their secret weapon. Please welcome the incredible Rachel Luna.
Hello. Thank you for having me, my love.
Oh my God, it's been so long that we chatted. Seems like forever that we've known each other, but by way of Dan, my husband. I think
Shout
that's
out
right.
to Dan. That's exactly how you met.
Yeah. Gosh, what, like 7, 8 years ago?
I want to say 8.
Yeah. And we had some beautiful conversations. And you have been, for me, I mean, beyond what everyone knows about what you do and your book and events you do, but kind of my gateway into understanding God. Because I know, and what I love about you is your respect for my beliefs. And you're like, here, I'll provide some guidance. And I feel like of all the people that I can talk to about that, you have been the most helpful and the most patient too. It's beautiful.
My friend calls them the Holy Ghost bumps, like when you get the full body chills. I want to take a moment to just like sit in that, because that to me is such a beautiful compliment. And it really goes along the lines with everything that I believe for. You know, I wrote the book, Permission to Offend. And some people might think like it's so offensive for you to share your faith with people. And one of the things that I have endeavored to do over the years is to be unapologetic about my faith, but also compassionately loving for people in their faith, right? Like, I just want to show you the respect for your beliefs that I want you to show me for my beliefs. And you saying to me what you just said is like confirmation that I am walking in the purpose that God has for me in terms of faith, and like sharing faith with other people, just holding a safe space for their curiosity, but never like ramming anything down, but just saying like, I'm a resource. If you want to chat about it, let's do. And if not, also very cool. So
yeah, it's been beautiful. And anytime I get curious too, I come to you. It's business, life, God, and now puppy training.
So to our listeners, like, I welcome those conversations. There's a lot of church hurt, and there's a lot of religious programming that we need to disassociate from. I was sharing with someone yesterday, for me, I am not pro-religion. I am pro-relationship. And I struggle with the Bible on many occasions because some of the principles, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what are we talking about? But it's in the uncertainty and in the questioning of your faith that then you get to be rooted and choose what it is that you want to believe. Because if we think about it, religion, politics, money, business, all of the philosophies that are a part of life, every single idea or concept is a choice. And you choose whether you believe it and apply it and adopt it into your lifestyle or whether you don't.
I love it. No, it's been amazing. And you're such a valuable resource when it comes to that. Okay, so let's jump into some quick questions.
Do it.
I'd love to know, where are you from?
I am originally from New York City. I'm a Puerto Rican woman, and I currently reside in Jacksonville, Florida.
Florida. What is one of the toughest moments you had to face as an entrepreneur?
I mean, it feels like every year there's a new, seemingly toughest moment. But I would have to say that the toughest moment was being diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer in 2019. And it wasn't just the breast cancer diagnosis. Like, the thing that I felt to be the most challenging is that that news arrived right at a time in my career where I felt like I had upward momentum. And I felt like things were finally really coming together. I was making more money than I had ever made in my business. I was more consistent than I had been in years previous. And when you feel like you are finally getting it together, and then you just get this big smackdown, and it makes you think about everything. I can't speak to every single cancer patient's journey, but for me personally, when I got that diagnosis, it made me question everything. Do I even want to do this business? Because I'll tell you, for me, immediately, nothing mattered. I didn't care about business. I did not care a rat's tail about business. I didn't care about the podcast. I didn't care about the email list or the social media. And it's so interesting because up until that point, oh, by the way, I also did not care about money. But up until that point, I had been obsessing over being a millionaire. Do you know why, Renee? Can I tell you why? Because the amount of times that people saw me, saw my work, loved what I was doing, and then they would invite me into spaces. And right before they fully let me in, they'd ask me, oh, do you make seven figures? And at that time, the answer was no. And then it was, oh, you can only be on this podcast if you're making seven figures. Like, oh, you can only be part of EO if you're making seven figures. Mm-hmm. And so it really was my value and my contribution to those communities were predicated on my bank account, not on the fact that they had fallen in love with me as a person, that they loved my work, that they appreciated the way that I taught journaling or the way that I showed up and taught sales confidence. None of that mattered. So leading up to my breast cancer diagnosis in 2019, all I cared about was the money and the followers on social media. And when I got diagnosed, I didn't care. I didn't care about social media. I didn't care about the numbers. I didn't care about the money. I wanted to live. By the way, I couldn't just quit because I had just launched a mastermind a month before the diagnosis. And my clients had already paid me a ton of money that I needed for the treatment. So I didn't even have the luxury to be like, you know what, F this, take your money back. I'm going to take care of me. And so it was the most challenging moment because it forced me to reevaluate my value system, reconnect with my identity, redefine my beliefs. And not only my beliefs and my core values, but the core values of my company and how we were going to show up in the face of adversity. So here's what I did. I reached out to all of my really cool friends that I knew my audience also knew who they were. And I said, look, I'm about to go in for treatment. I think I'll be okay for most of my calls. But if I am too sick one day, can you jump in and take a call? And so I scheduled out people that could add just the same amount of value, if not more than me, to the people that I was supposed to serve. So we never missed a beat in delivery. And then there were days where I'd be hooked up to like chemo. I did a low dose chemo, right? Every day I'd be hooked up to the IV and I would show up on camera. And do you know that it was challenging, but it was so fulfilling because it helped me feel better on days when I really felt crappy.
Yeah.
So I would think that was the hardest. And now the second hardest is like promoting a book. Do you know how hard it is to market a book? The writing is enough, but the marketing part, my gosh, I'm in it. I'm in the weeds. Okay,
I get it. I'm helping Dan, my husband, do it for his book too.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're good, you're smart. The book, I haven't read it yet, but I know it's amazing. How can you not want to talk about this? And it's tough. It really is. And it all comes down to the marketing, getting it in the right hands.
And who you know, and whether or not, because there are people that do want to help you. For example, yesterday I was chatting with this lovely woman and she was like, how can I support it? I was like, great, bring me on your podcast. And, the ideal would be for every podcast in the world to talk about my book on the launch day. But she's already booked so far out that we are not even recording until March, a month after my book launches. And then who knows when it's going to be out in the world. And so you just have to time the timing of things. I think that that's another challenging part of entrepreneurship is the timing of things and doing things when you really don't feel like doing them, because there is your timing and then there's the world's timing. And at some point there needs to be some intersection.
Oh my gosh. Timing is, especially when it comes to PR. Oh, let me tell you one example that I'll never forget. Client we had in 2016 when I ran a PR agency, and we had confirmation from several outlets. So I don't know if the year's right because you can Google when this happened, but we had confirmation that TechCrunch, Inc., Business Insider, all these publications were going to cover the announcement of their seed or Series A round. So we had an embargo with TechCrunch, and then the others were lined up. The day this was all going to go, we're pressing play, we had spent months doing this, is when Google announced the new name of their company, which was Alphabet Company. And all of a sudden, that took everything. We got emails from all the publications saying, sorry, we can't run this story today because of this new thing that came up. We don't know when we can. And we're like, what? No! Down the drain. And our clients blamed us, of course, because that's
my fault.
Oh, PR.
People really need to.
Oh, yeah. And so we're like, what do we do now? So anyway, it's tough. There's no guarantees. And especially when it comes to book stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, so my book was originally supposed to be out in the world in May of 2022, months ago. And then there was some sort of a paper shortage, some sort of a delay. A bunch of things happened. So then they were like, okay, we're going to move it till, first it was supposed to be March. Then they were like, we're just going to move it till May. Then it was June. It got moved so many times. This one poor woman, author, had all of this press ready to go. Today's show, everything, whatever. This was right when all the things with the shipping was happening and her books were delayed. And so they could not run any of the marketing that they were going to market. All of the media that they had was gone because of shipping delays. And there was nothing she could do about it. You just gotta post it. You just gotta. I think that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It really teaches you to be nimble and to go with the flow and stop looking at life as linear, because it's not. It's cyclical. And if you can weather the cycles, then you're going to be further faster.
It's true. This morning, totally relevant. We're training a new puppy. And I had no expectations of this. It's just like a newborn baby. They just sleep all the time and they're cute and wow, it's so much work. And I'm having a little bit of the puppy blues. And then my oldest son is sick, so he's home. And then my husband's out of the house recording the audio for his book. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. And so I get into the car and I was like, Noah, do you want the puppy to come for the car ride? He's like, yeah. So we put him in the car and they're happy in the back. I'm reversing out of the driveway and I'm telling myself, become the person that can deal. Renee, become the person that can deal. And he's like, what are you saying, Mama? I was like, Noah, I'm telling myself I need to become the person that can deal with these situations. Because everybody that has a dog that's had the dog since they were a puppy have gone through the same thing. Everyone that's had a baby have gone through the same thing. You have to become the person that can deal with these situations. Because unlike you, where you're actually facing potential death with being sick and diagnosed with cancer, it's everyone's fine. Everyone's healthy. There's no issue. I need to be able to deal with these things better.
Can I give you a subtle shift in that? I want to make 2 points. One is that when you use the word become the person, it implies that that's a future thing that needs to happen. So I would say, instead of become, I would say Renee, be the person, right? So I'd be like, Rachel, be the person, because then that activates our unconscious programming to say like, oh, we're not going to wait to become, we're going to be that right now. We're going to like dig down deep. I always say dig deep and grab your ovaries, right? If you have them. If you've got ovaries, dig down deep and have them, and then be that person. And I used to do that too. Like I used to say become, and I used to kind of put like a little bit of a future and a distance. But if you can collapse that and bring that moment even closer to you, then the gap is shorter. The other thing that you said that I thought was interesting, you were like, it's not like cancer. I'm a former US Marine. I don't know if you know this about me, Renee, but when I was working in the Marine Corps, I did a tour of duty in a hospital in Germany, and it was like a joint forces hospital. And one of the things they taught us in their training was to never minimize one patient's suffering over another. Yeah. And the example I like to give is I had one patient in the ICU who his Humvee ran over an IED, like an explosive device, and he lost both of his legs, a part of his genitalia. This kid was mangled every possible which way. Then I had another patient a couple floors down who had lost a pinky toe. And the guy that lost his pinky toe, you would have thought he had no more limbs. You would have thought like he was going to be disabled for life. He wasn't. Once we were done with him, he was going to be able to walk out of there and be okay. But in that moment, he was grieving so much. And one of the guys that I was training started to say, like, you should be lucky. You know, you think of yourself, you're grateful because, you know, Lance Corporal so-and-so. And I stopped the guy and I said, no, we don't do that here. We're just going to listen because this kid is grieving too. And you know what it was, Renee? It wasn't just that he was grieving his pinky. He lost friends in that accident. He now was dealing with survivor's guilt. Yeah. He was now dealing with the loss of his identity, the loss of his career path. And so you might say, everyone is fine. And I'm making a bigger deal than it is about the puppy. But the reality is that, no, maybe on the unconscious level, there's like some guilt about the time that it's taking, the puppy is taking away from the things you desire to do, or your career, your podcast, your kids, the time that you want to spend embracing your own wild woman, like having those moments. And so there is this grieving and adjusting process, and we should not be in such a rush to dismiss it or minimize it. Rather, be a gentle observer of like, oh, this is really hard for me. And independent of whatever hardship anyone else has, in this moment right now, this is hard for me. I listened to this guy named Jordan Peterson. He's quite controversial, and I know some people love him and some people hate him. But he says life is chaos. And it doesn't matter whether you're like a multimillionaire, there's going to be chaos. Whether you are living in poverty, there's going to be chaos. And can you just get into the cycle of chaos and recognize like it's part of the journey?
It's true. And I love that. I appreciate that. Never minimizing somebody's trauma or pain. It reminds me of a song by, I think it's Meredith Brooks, where they're like, the taxi cab driver actually has a PhD. I forget the lyrics, but anyways, I'll put it in the show notes. Basically what she's saying is don't judge people, right? And so when you're minimizing somebody's trauma, you're judging them by saying, oh, he only lost his pinky toe. The guy upstairs lost like 2 legs.
Okay, let's talk about judgment. I love that you said this. I talk about judgment in my book, Permission to Offend. And I'm going to say many times throughout the interview, listeners, just because it's part of the game. I love this. But I do talk about judgment because, do you know this about me too? Like I'm certified in neuroscience. When it comes to your brain is programmed to make automatic judgments. And you are actually making judgments of the people. Let's say someone's walking towards you. Before you even recognize who that person is, your brain is already forming a judgment whether or not they are a safe person based on your life experiences, based on perception, based on whatever you just watched on the news. So the brain is trying to figure out, are we going to live? Are we going to die? And it's going round and round and round. And a judgment is happening automatically. So our first judgment is always automatic. Then you have a choice to continue to believe the judgment or to release the judgment. So I always say, judge away. It's happening. I'm judging you. My first judgment is automatic. I can't control it. It's just happening. But then I'm going to decide if I want to lean into that judgment or if I want to release it. And the other thing I say about judgment is, if you're judging me, I have your attention. And I'm here for it because now I have an opportunity to serve you, to support you, maybe to foster some sort of an aha moment, or maybe to create some sort of antagonizing moment that helps you step more fully into who you were meant to be. So let's judge each other and have some fun with it.
I love that. If you're judging me now, I have your attention.
Yeah, you see me, you hear me.
Oh, that's so good. And like good attention, bad attention, but it's so true. It's kind of like, what more crazy stuff can Ye do? It's like people judge, but he's like, guess who's watching me?
Yeah. I don't want to diagnose anyone with any mental non-wellness, but he definitely is a character. And me personally, I don't intentionally do things to instigate judgment. I am just choosing to live my life fully self-expressed. I'm just choosing to walk in my truth. And if my truth offends you, well, then we can have a conversation about it. But I'm not going to apologize for my truth until we've had a good conversation and I'm able to see that, oh, wait a second, maybe my truth is really messed up and it needs an update.
Let's talk about this too. What do you mean when you say give yourself permission to offend?
Well, let me tell you what I don't mean first. And what I don't mean is to use this concept as a weapon. I don't mean for you to go out there and start cursing people out and saying all kinds of things just because you want to go and offend and instigate violence or hate or discrimination. That's not what it's about at all. What permission to offend is really about is the fact that there are going to be people who are offended that you exist. There are going to be people who are offended that you dare to have a dream. There are going to be people who are offended that you're making money. There are going to be people that are offended that you're broke, right? So your existence is an offense to someone. And what I'm saying is give yourself permission to be offensive in your truth, in your faith, in your belief. Give yourself permission to just own all the parts of you. And then from there, be curious so that there's more clarity, there's more community, there's more connection. So let's do a real world example. At the beginning of this episode, you talked about God. I love the Lord. I'm a Christian, even though I sometimes think that the story of the Virgin Mary and Jesus is like a very, very far-fetched, like, what the hell? Are we sure about that? I feel like maybe Mary and Joseph were playing just the tip and they had
something happened.
Something happened, right? The fact that I'm even making this joke with you is enraging some diehard Christian out there.
Totally.
I mean, you might get a couple of letters. I might get a couple of letters. I don't care. It's not that I don't care that they're enraged. I don't care that my truth is offensive. What I do care about is, are you willing to have a conversation with me to share your perspective in a respectful way, and that you and I can then have conversation and dialogue around why that's quote unquote right, why it's quote unquote wrong, and where will we meet in the middle if we will. For me, it's about fostering better communication and understanding. In that, if I meet someone that, perfect example, I have some friends that are not Christian, right? Muslim, beautiful religion. Great. Let's talk about it. Tell me more about what you believe and why you believe that. Oh, interesting. Cool. Now, I am not going to try to change your belief system because that's what you've chosen to believe. Now, if my Muslim friend said to me, Rachel, I'm Muslim, but I'm really interested in learning more about your side of the fence. Tell me more about your God and Christianity. Fair game. Come on, girl. Let's do some Bible study. Let me tell you what I believe and why I believe it. And then it's an offering. It's not me pushing something down. Let me give you one more example. Let's talk about race. This is such a hot button topic. I personally believe that racism is still alive and well in the United States. And the reason I believe that, so this is how we would have a conversation, right? I personally believe that. I'm already framing it as it's my belief. I'm not telling you, and I'm not imposing or projecting this on you. I'm not saying racism is still alive in the US. And if you don't see it, you're effing blind and you're this and you're that. That's not going to help us get to a place of understanding. That's not going to help us get to a place where we can work together and actually change some of these antiquated systems. So I'm going to say, I believe that racism is still alive and well in the United States. And the reason I believe it is because I am a woman of color. I'm fair skinned, so I could be white passing to some people. So I have not experienced racism the way a dark complected individual might have experienced it. But I have family members that are really, really dark skinned, and I've seen how they've been treated. So I know it exists. Now, if I'm talking to someone who is racist and they're saying to me, no, it doesn't exist. Everyone should be just pulling their own weight, fair fight, whatever. There are some arguments for why racism doesn't exist, allegedly. So if I'm talking to that person and they're really fighting for their truth, then I get to say, all right, we are at an impasse. I'm hearing you say X, Y, and Z. Is that what you mean? Because really, where we get into the offense is we're making their words and their actions mean something that maybe they don't intend for it to mean, but they don't have the education. They don't have the ability to articulate in a way that truly conveys their truth. They're only repeating and regurgitating what they've been taught, their upbringing, their programming. And so I say, and I talk about this in the book all the time. And by the way, the book is not about race or gender, anything like that. I'm just giving you a good example of how we use this in the real world. Then what I say is examine your beliefs, question your beliefs, question your truth, question your faith, so that when you're confronted in these situations, you have a leg to stand on or an opportunity to say like, hey, you know what? Maybe racism does still exist and I just don't see it because I'm in an echo chamber and I'm surrounded by people who believe the same thing that I believe. I personally live in a gated community, okay? I don't really see much racism in my little bubble. Why? Because we're insulated. And the people of color that live in my neighborhood make money. So it's a different kind of people of color in my community. So we don't experience it. And so now we have to say, okay, wait a second. Is your experience different because of your environment? Is it different because of your upbringing? And can I be curious enough to understand you, to desire to understand you more than I desire for you to understand me? Because think about this, Renee, if you are more interested in understanding me and I'm more interested in understanding you, then either of us trying to be understood, we are going to be understood faster, even if we don't agree. There are tons of people that I'm like, I see how you got there. I don't agree with you, but I understand why you think that way.
Hey, ladies, Happy New Year. Before we continue on with the incredible Rachel, I did want to say welcome to 2023, and this is the year to be fabulous. Don't you agree? It's the year to stand on the top of the mountains and scream at how excited you are for what you're doing in your business this year, who you're working with, and the impact you're going to create. Now, in order to do that, you got to stand out from the crowd. And if you know anything about me, I am a former PR agency owner, recovering owner, but I know PR. I'm currently working with a handful of female entrepreneurs, which is my dream to work with these women, to support them, to help them create the impact and stuff I love to do. And I know a lot of people ask, Renee, who do you work with? Renee, can I work with you? How does this work? Well, yes, I do have some spots open to do one-on-one PR, to work with me, to get you on podcasts, to get you on stages speaking, to get you in media. But I know a lot of you just want to get a little sense of what it's actually like to do PR. And so I have a free resource for you called the Do-It-Yourself Media Kit. Because when I start with any new entrepreneur, the first thing that we do is we focus on the messaging, the why behind why you want to do PR, who you're trying to reach, the impact you want to leave. And it all starts with the work involved in creating a media kit. And it's a big deal because it forces you to get organized. It forces you to get headshots, to create messaging, all this stuff, so that you're super organized come the day that you do the pitching, or if you hire me to do it for you. So I have this free resource for you. Go to my website, wewildwomen.com/media-kit. wewildwomen.com media kit. You'll get access to a free downloadable media kit that you can use today to get kickstarted on this 2023 journey to creating the most impact you can create in your business, for yourself, for your family and loved ones. So go check it out at wewildwomen.com/media kit. I love this conversation, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole specifically on this topic too, because it's very near and dear to me for exact the same reason that you just said. So we talk about like quick sidebars, like racism. I've seen it. And where I'm curious is if racism only exists against colored people, because I've seen it go the other way, but it's not labeled as racism.
Oh, girl, you see, you opening up that. This is a permission to offend conversation. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
This is such a perfect way. I know that in this work, I am opening myself up to like, there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding if we're not really intentional to frame it as, look, right now, all we're doing is sharing ideas and bringing up questions so that we can find the best answer that serves humanity in the best possible way. And the only way we can get to those answers is by throwing around a bunch of really dumb, silly questions, a really bunch of ideas that will never work. It's the only way we can sift through all the junk, right? So this is a true good permission to offend conversation, because I would agree with you. I think that racism, if you look at the definition of the word racism, it's not just against melanated people. It's a group. It's just a group of people. I do believe that there's racism against white people. There's racism against Black people. Well, bigotry would be the parallel of racism, but bigotry would be against people with gender differences. So I personally do think that some people call it reverse racism. And I'm like, no, it's just racism. Okay. Like if you have a problem with someone because of the color of their skin, no matter what that color it is, that is racism according to my understanding of the definition of the word. Did you see how I framed that, Renee?
Yeah.
I really brought it back on the ownership. And I think when we start bringing it back on ownership of this is my perspective, this is my understanding, it completely changes it versus of that's racism. Look it up in the dictionary. Prove me wrong. We have to stop with this need to be right and instead start with the need to understand the other person. And this applies to you. How many times have you, the proverbial listener, you that are listening, think about how many times you've wanted to say something on social media, but you didn't because you were afraid that you were going to get hashtag canceled.
All the time. I would even ask a question out of curiosity. And because my question wasn't framed in the exact way that people wanted to hear it, they were offended and wanted to cancel me. I'm like, I was asking a question.
Yeah, but you can't ask questions, right? Like,
no, I can't. No,
you can't ask questions because now you're making people do emotional labor. But I would then pass it back and say, but you don't have to do the emotional labor. You don't have to answer the question if you don't want to. The fact that you feel the need to be the one to answer all the questions, but then be mad because you're investing the time, that signals to me like, well, are there boundaries in place? Listen, I will engage in conversation and I will answer as many questions as I can until I'm tired. And then I'm not answering any more questions and the shop is closed. And if you don't like that, go to somebody else because we're not meant to be everything to everyone. And so this is why I say that Permission to Offend, the book, is the antidote to cancel culture. If we could
explain that.
Well, because there's so many principles that first help you connect to your truth, teaches you how to question your truth. So I don't know why we're still on this racist topic because we started there. I'm going to bring it back there, right? When everything was going on with the George Floyd and 2020, I remember, even though I'm a woman of color, I had some racist ideas. And I didn't want to believe that because I was like, how could I be racist? I'm a minority. But no, because I had a whole different life experience. And in some parts of the Puerto Rican community, Black skinned Puerto Ricans have been discriminated against since the beginning of time. And so nobody wanted the Black skinned Puerto Rican. The lighter your skin was, the more social standing you had, right?
Wow.
I have this like generational thought pattern. That's not to say that I didn't grow up with people of color. Of course I was. Some of my own aunts and uncles are darker skinned, but there still was that programming. And so when all of this was happening, I had to stop and ask myself, wait a second, are some of my thoughts racist thoughts? I hate that the answer was yes, Renee, but I had to even give myself permission to ask the question, give myself permission to admit that, yes, I had these racist thoughts, even though, and I remember using, but my best friend is Black. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she's Black. I was still having really messed up thoughts.
Isn't that interesting? And like how those thoughts too, in my belief, is that they were inherited in your DNA.
Yes, they are. So it's your thoughts, your belief system that you have. If you haven't questioned it lately, is more than likely the product of your environment. It's the projection of your caregivers, your teachers. I remember one time my daughter was in the first grade and her teacher, sweetest woman, made some really awful money mindset statements. And so my kid came home thinking like rich people are bad and it's bad to have money. I stopped. I said, whoa, where'd you hear that? My teacher said this and this. I said, whoa, Renee, it took me years to unravel that one story because it had been imprinted at such a young age.
This happened to my oldest at his school. He's been bullied, not so much bullying, but teased. And potentially a lot of people would classify us as rich. And even me saying that, I was like, oh, like, shouldn't we be proud? It's not like we walked all over a bunch of people to get to where we are. No, we worked hard. But even the idea of saying, I identify as somebody who is wealthy has such negative connotation. Not knowing that my 10-year-old son would come home saying, kids are making fun of me because I'm a rich kid. And I'm like, whoa. And immediately my head goes to, but what are you telling them? What are you saying to them to make them believe that? Or are they already showing up to playground with that mindset?
Those are great questions to even just like explore, because maybe it's a little bit of both. Yeah. And so the thing that I challenge myself to this every day is like, I am paying attention to the thoughts that I have and I'm questioning them frequently. Is that not a good thought? Because I don't like to label my thoughts good or bad, but I ask, is that a helpful thought? Is that an empowering thought or is it a disempowering thought?
I like Tony Robbins. He kind of labels these things as resourceful or unresourceful emotions and thoughts. Is this actually serving me as a resource or is it not? And you're supposed to experience all of these emotions. They're very healthy and important, but you can't be stuck in the negative all the time.
And not just me, but like if this thought were published on the front page of the newspaper, if this were the top hit when someone opened up Google, would that thought be a helpful thought to be put out into our world and into our environment? Because even though I'm a Christian woman, listen, I still do believe in the power of our thoughts and the energy and the frequency that we're operating in. So even if I'm not saying it out loud, if I'm thinking it, it's still vibrating from me. It's still putting something out into the atmosphere. So it's so important to have these moments of like, well, let me clean out my mind. Let me just dust it off and see what's happening in there. And I'm questioning my thoughts. I'm questioning my beliefs. I'm questioning my faith. And I mentioned this before. Me and the Bible, there are times I'm reading, I'm like, I don't like this at all. Hold on, let me investigate. Let me make sure that I actually believe this. I had a pastor once tell me, this was such a pivotal moment for me. I was going to these Bible studies every Wednesday night, and every Wednesday he would say something, and I'd be like, excuse me, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. Why? Why this? Why that? I was constantly questioning the word of God. And one day I was being my usual inquisitive self, and I noticed one of the attendees kind of like roll the eyes like, oh, here we go. We just want to get out of here. Because, for a lot of people, they'll go to church, they'll go to the Wednesday Bible study, but they're not really there to connect. They're there to check the box. And so don't get too curious that now we're staying past the 1 hour that I said I was going to be at church for. And I was frequently making us stay 90 minutes, 2 hours to have these philosophical debates on faith. And so I went up to the pastor. I said, listen, I don't think I should come to Bible study anymore. He's like, why? I said, because I'm going to keep asking questions. I don't know why I believe these things. I just know I was taught to believe it. And I have a lot of questions. And he said, you are the best person to come. And the reason why he said, I want you to still come because it's good to question your faith. God is not mad at you for questioning your faith. And one of two things will happen. Either one, you will get the answers that you're looking for, and now you'll have a really strong foundation of what you believe in. And when people ask you questions, then you could be the resource, which is why, Renee, I am a resource for you. And I'm a resource for a lot of my friends that are not sure about religion, but they like the way that I talk about my God. And they're interested in knowing a little bit more about the God that I serve, because he doesn't seem to be this judgmental hellfire and brimstone, you're going to hell kind of deity that we see in church. So either that's going to happen or you're going to decide that it's not for you. And then you'll know.
And also on that note too, which was something you helped me with too, is maybe it's not for you right now. And maybe it's like, that's just not what you need right now. And it's a future thing or something that will become. Because even me, I went from like identifying as an atheist. And then over the course of the last few months being like, don't believe that anymore. That's not who I am. And I read the books about being an atheist and I was like, wow, this is like super gnarly stuff. I believe in something else. I just don't know what it is yet. It's there and we're exploring and I'm curious. ABC, always be curious. And having these conversations help. But how does this relate to business? It's like your belief system. It guides you and it tells you the compass. You're going north, east, south, or west.
Yes.
And all this comes with you everywhere you go.
One of the things I tell my clients to do is to write down your values every single day and to once a week write down your beliefs. And the reason why I say write down your values every day is because once you have your values, I write down my goals and my values every single day. I have to, because I have ADHD. If I don't write down my goals every single day, I promise you, they're going to be out the window. And then 3 months from now, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that was a goal that we had. Damn, we missed it. So I write down my values every single day. Because when your values are face to face, it's so much easier to be a confident, decisive person. It's easier for you to take the inspired action that you keep waiting for. And I'll give you a quick example. I have a client named Dee, and we were in one of our coaching calls the other day, and she said, man, I've got to make this decision, and I really don't know what to do. She said, I hired this woman. She's kind of the underdog. She lives in subsidized housing from the government. She had a great first day, but she's telling me that if I issue her a 1099, the price that she pays on her subsidized housing is going to increase and she can't afford the increase. And she's wondering if there's something that she can do. Well, first of all, what she's asking you to do is illegal. She's asking you to break the law. And I'm not here to tell you break the law or don't break the law. What I am going to tell you is that number one, what are your company core values? And then what is your personal value system? Because at the end of the day, when I work with a client, I don't want you to be a replica of me. I want you to be the full expression of you, whatever that looks like. I want you to run your business according to the flow and the work cycle that aligns with you. If I answer the question, if I say to her, no, Dee, don't do that, or just pay her under the table, Dee, no big deal. Now, Dee never connected with her truth and with what felt right for her. And instead, she'll go out and she'll do whatever I say to her. Maybe not right away, but down the line, she'll start to feel like, something feels off. Something feels out of alignment. Like, I don't understand why this isn't working. And it's not working because we get so used to listening to our coaches and our mentors and our gurus that we stop listening to our true value system.
We always look for that external validation because we don't trust ourselves enough.
Yeah. I talk about validation in the book as well. And so I have an activity called validation versus verification. I actually say it's time to get sober and end the validation addiction. And so the people want to be validated because they want to be told that they're right and good. The only reason why we seek it. But what if you could just trust that what you want is right and good for you for now? And the way that you get to determine if what you want is right and good for you right now is through, instead of asking for validation, asking for verification. How do we do this? Well, we say to the person, so D came to me for validation and for an answer. And I was like, no, ma'am, you're not going to put that on me. This is your hard work as the CEO of your business. So tell me what your company core values are. Listen, D is like one of the most honest people. She does everything by the book. So I said, well, based on your value system, you can't do this under the table thing because it doesn't align with your values. What D could have done is said, here are the ideas that I've come up with. Can you verify that number one, they align with my values, and number two, they are legal because my value is true and integrity. And number three, can you let me know if it's clear that this is the kind of action step that a 6-figure, 7-figure earning CEO would take? Those are verification points. Now we can give her some feedback, and then she, the CEO of her business, can actually make a decision that is rooted in integrity to herself.
I love that. It follows like the 1-3-1 principle: 1 problem, 3 potential solutions, and 1 solution. It's so good. And it's a way of, especially as a CEO or managing a team, because everybody has a problem and it could be big or small. But what we say is, don't come to me with your problem without considering 3 solutions, and try those solutions. And I do this with my kids. The remote doesn't work for the Apple TV. That's the problem. What are the 3 solutions you have? And let's decide on the one that you're going to work on. Well, maybe it's just not on Bluetooth, or maybe it needs to be charged, or maybe it's not the right remote. Cool. Solve those problems, and then you'll find your solution.
Oh, I'm going to put that on my kids already. Thank you for that.
The autonomy for them to be like, your problem is your problem to solve. I can say, oh, maybe that's not a good solution to consider. Try finding a third option. But I always say, don't come to me unless you've tried 3 things. And if the third one doesn't work, then I'll help you. Can't open your juice box? Try it 3 times. Yeah. Maybe you have to use the end of a fork to get the little part open so you can stick your straw in. And it works with kids. Hopefully it works with puppies. And it works with managing people and yourself too.
That's a good one, Renee. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So we could talk forever. Man, time goes by fast with you. One last question. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
Freedom. Freedom to be. Whatever being means to you.
I love it. So when does your book come out?
Well, it's available for pre-order right now. I don't know, when are you going to release this episode?
Well, this episode, December 27th. When does it come out?
It comes out February 7th. However, don't wait until February 7th. Pre-order your copy right now. Pre-order as a gift to your best friend, because when you go to permissiontooffend.com/presale and you pre-order your copies and you put the little order number in, that will send me an email to say like, hey, you bought a copy. And I will email you a PDF copy of the first 2 chapters so you can start reading right away. You can work through the lessons in the introduction and in chapter 1. And trust me, there's tons of work that'll keep you tied up until you really do the work, right? And then the other thing is, when you do that, that automatically puts you on my mailing list. I'm going to be giving away freebies and nuggets all the way from now until February 7th. We have our block party. It's a virtual experience where I'm going to be doing a lot of teaching. There's a 5-day coaching component that's totally free. And all of that comes with pre-ordering. And if you are an author yourself or an aspiring author, I do want to first take a moment to tell you why pre-ordering is so important. Because when you pre-order the book, it lets all the bookstores, Amazon in particular, know, hey, we better order some copies to have on stock. So when February 7th comes for me, February 7th, 2023, and people start rushing to buy it because they're like, oh, it's going to ship now, you don't get that big old sold out sign. So pre-order your copy.
You're going to sell out.
Listen, no, I don't want to sell out. I want to have so many copies in Amazon that everyone gets their book. And you know, it'd be amazing if just Amazon by themselves ordered 14,000 copies. That would be great. And then we sell them.
I'll just message Jeff right now. Hey, Bezos.
I forgot there's one more thing, and this is a free thing that I could give. In the book, there is the offense capacity quotient quiz. We didn't get to talk about your offense capacity, but there's a free quiz. So you can go to permissiontooffend.com/quiz and take the free quiz. You'll get some resources. You'll get a couple podcast episodes to help you there as well.
I already know my score is like 0. I get offended easily.
Oh, I can't wait for you to take the quiz.
I know. Can't wait to read the book.
I haven't sent you a copy. I'm going to send you one.
Maybe. No, I think you did. I'm pretty sure. Wait, I did the pre-order thing because I'm getting emails from you and there's some such good content in there, by the way.
I didn't send you the PDF version. I'll send it to you right after.
Maybe you did. I don't know. I've been kind of on hiatus with our 3 week trip to Europe. We just got back. So today's our last day to use jet lag as an excuse. Cool. Okay. I love this. Get your hands on the book now. Pre-order it. All the links are in the show notes. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Renee. I love you and give my love to the family.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time, the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.